from the International School at Tel Aviv University, you're listening to Rihla, the podcast of the MA in Middle Eastern Studies program. Rihla is the Arabic word for travelogue. The Rihla Podcast brings you stories of our students' journeys as they live and study in Tel Aviv and travel throughout Israel and the wider Middle East. This episode of Rihla is part of the Alumni Spotlight series. From time to time, we'll catch up with graduates of the program, find out what they've been up to, and discuss their areas of expertise.
Welcome to a new episode of Rihla Podcast. My name is Valerie Strassmann, and I'm talking with Val Jensen for our Alumni Spotlight series. Hey Val, this is Tel Aviv calling. Can you please introduce yourself?
Well, my name is Val Jensen. I am a Tel Aviv alum. I went to school there in the 2012 and 2013, and then I had my thesis year last year. Currently, I've turned in my thesis and did all my work, and am working with the United States government right now.
Let us first talk about your experience in the MAMIS program. How did you end up in Israel?
Okay, well, it's a bit of a long story, actually. When I went to Tel Aviv University, that wasn't my first time in Israel. That's actually, believe it or not, my third university in Israel that I actually went to. But I think, why I came to Israel in the first place, it was really probably a couple things. I think, I was working in San Diego at the San Diego Union Tribune, and, I was really looking, to go back to school and to, do a master's and possibly even a PhD. And, the Middle East, it definitely always interested me, and I think I felt like I had a personal connection to the Middle East, Israel in particular. I mean, my grandma was Jewish, and I never was able to get to Israel, before that. And, I really wanted to, just explore and to explore that heritage. My dad actually studied in Jerusalem for 6 months. And that kind of gave me an idea to, kind of follow his footsteps as well. And so I started looking, at programs and universities in Israel. I wrote my thesis on Yemen, and it's called Yemen, the Forbidden Kingdom from 1926 to 1948. And it's a study into the foreign policy and friendship treaties and the opposition of Imam Yahya during the time. And that was just I'm going to tell you, that was just such an amazing experience for me to go through that whole process, the whole thesis process. And I was doing my primary research at the National Archives in D.C., Maryland area, and I had a blast. I had a blast being there for a week straight, just digging through the archives and the things that people haven't even touched that were still in the Saran wrap. Just State Department cables, and it was kind of cool, because the State Department, I had a connection with them already, and so here I am, looking at State Department cables, back from the 20s and up into the 40s, and just pouring through them, and my thesis advisor, Dr. Alon was absolutely great, and he pushed me really hard. I mean, it was times where I was just like, are you kidding me? And he threw out my first chapter completely, and it's just like, I just think that you need to redo this whole thing, and you don't have to throw out everything, but I think you need to to go back and to rework it, and so I was like, all right. And, at that point, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to finish this thing. And I was worried about having to do this and work at the same time and then getting married, and I was engaged, and there was just so much other stuff coming at me, and I was doing it, in the States. I wanted to stay in Israel, but I got, first an internship for the State Department and had to go back and work with them, and then, do my thesis as well. So it was a challenging time, but, I just, I stuck with it, and Dr. Alon was, really great in just, pushing me forward and really, just seeking out every sort of thing that he get from me, saying like, I know you can do this. I know you can write this better, and I know you can have a great paper, and it was really, just really, really beneficial for me, and that it was a great experience too, because I'd never had anything like that before, and it really, I think my writing just got, just a ton better, which is really cool.
What are you working on at the moment?
Well, let's see. Most recently, I did an internship with the State Department in diplomatic security in D.C. I'm moving to a different internship. This one's going to be focused on a different aspect of diplomatic security. But the one that I did most recently was basically working with diplomatic security internationally, in a national way. So you have domestic side, and you have international side. And so what I did internationally was I was basically the intern for the Kabul Embassy Security Force, and that is basically dealing with the security of the Kabul Embassy. And there were just so many things involved with security for the embassy that I had my hands on, and it really gave me a lot of responsibility. My first initial appointment, the first week, I was given a task basically to do some product research for something that they were trying to acquire for the embassy, and it was a major piece of equipment, and I was just tasked with trying to figure out all sorts of things about it, talking to other departments, State Department, and gathering as much information as possible and putting it into a presentation and giving it to leaders, and State Department officials and being up there and talking about it. And I look back at that and I say that, like, I would have been incredibly nervous, and I still was, but I would have been more so nervous if I basically at Tel Aviv University, if I hadn't done so many briefings in my classes, and at Tel Aviv University with especially, with Professor Strassmann. And, we were just getting briefings every day about, for me, it was Yemen. I picked Yemen early on and wanted to know everything about it. And so, I was up in front of class talking, constantly about Yemen. And so when I got this task, I prepared it and I gave the presentation, and it was great. Afterwards, my supervisor, who's a special agent, came up to me and was just like, "Man," he's like, "that was really good." He gave us a lot of great information. You learned a really awesome skill that's really going to be helpful for you in the future. And that was really, really awesome. So that was kind of like the first thing I did. And I had my hands in a lot of other things too. I was working on this really, important memo that was dealing with visa issues for some of our security force. Mm-hmm. And so I had to really gather a lot of information about that too, and condense a lot of information that I had before. And everything in the government, whenever you're writing something, all I can say is that, it is literally a brief. I mean, you need to put so much information into like maybe 1 page, max 2 pages of stuff. And you need to know how to, filter out, unneeded information or just extraneous information and boil it down into just 1 or 2 pages worth of very important material. So, that was also a bit of a challenge, and, but I think it was, definitely helped, the Tel Aviv University and just my education in general, really helped prepare me to do that too. So now I'm going, and I just, learned this really a couple days ago, really, that I'm going to work on the domestic side of diplomatic security, and that's dealing with like passport and visa fraud issues. And that's what the research. They also, deal with, security investigations for government employees and everything like that. So I got to see the international work and I get to see the domestic work. And so my goal basically is to, apply for the special agent position. And so it's quite interesting because, 17-year-old, Val Jensen, high school student at Guam, which is where I graduated high school in Guam High School, thinking about being an FBI agent, and here you go, it's come kind of full circle, and I'm not doing an FBI agent, but now it's my security special agent. So that's kind of where I'm at right now, and it's been a long struggle to get there for sure.
What are the issues at stake? I mean, just tell us what you can tell about, of course.
Oh, right, yeah. Oh gosh, I mean, there's so much. I mean, with the visa issues, coming to the United States, I mean, it's just one of the ways that, people of, I would say, bad moral character can come into our country and mess things up. And, it's you have to be very careful about, a lot of times what they use is they'll use, passports of dead people or, people who are gone and basically try to infiltrate, and either, try to, like a supercell kind of thing, or, just, getting illegally. And it's a very, like if you're talking about like, a gateway and, in a way that you can stop, things from happening, inside the United States, one of those things, those huge things is like the entry and exit, for a country. It is literally the gateway that they're coming through. And so if you can, basically stop that and stop them, from coming in and coming in illegally, it's huge. It's huge. I mean, I'm sure, when I go into there and I start, really investigating how the whole process works and, all the ins and outs of how someone can get in illegally from the state and, from another country, it's going to be mind-boggling to me, to figure out, how creative people can be, how, like, if they really want to get somewhere, that, there's different ways that they can do it. But, yeah, I mean, it's a huge issue. I mean, there's a lot at stake, there's, I haven't explored it all yet, but I think it's going to be very, eye-opening to me. And it just makes me feel good that, I can be a part of that process that helps protect, my country. And that's what I want to do. I want to do that. I want to fight for that.
Right. That will be my next question. What do you like about your work?
The interesting part of the work that I've done is that, you really do feel like you're important about, there's a lot of risk and a lot of responsibility, on you. And that's what I wanted. I wanted to have that responsibility. I wanted to, be the one that, that people can look to and be like, I'm glad you're doing what you're doing, because, you're protecting, me and my family, and you're protecting just the infrastructure of all the hard work that people, spent, years and years and years building up, to get to this point that we're at now, and protecting that. And that's what I really love about it. I mean, when I was working for the Kabul Security Force for the State Department, here I am, like an intern, and I just thought I was doing the most amazing kind of work when I was given a task and a project. I was like, this is a multi-million-dollar contract that they're dealing with, and it has huge ramifications. And what I'm doing here, these little things here and there, is really going to like, this, really amazing, benefit and conclusion. So, I mean, that is really rewarding. The downsides really, I mean, like I said, a lot before, this interview, it's just really, really challenging to get your foot into the door with any government work. I mean, it's, for instance, the State Department has a 2-for-1 hiring process right now. For every 2 positions open, they're hiring one person. So, I mean, it's really, really difficult to get in, and you have to, like I said, persevere. I mean, I did an unpaid internship in D.C., which is really expensive to live, and that was all for free. So, I mean, you're getting that experience when you put it on your resume. At the same time, you're just like, man, is this ever going to pan out? So you constantly going through that in your head, like, am I really going to get somewhere with this, or am I just working for free for everyone? So it's challenging in that respect. I mean, when you're at your job, and there's always the challenges with work and government sometimes, you have to find like the good work and family life balance. And I think the State Department is really doing a lot better. I think they're working really, really hard on finding that balance for people. Because that can, you want to, for me, family is number one, and that's where I want to keep it. And work is definitely, a huge priority, and I want to find the time that I can to, keep that balance in perspective and right. So that's also another challenge too. But I think they're doing a really great job on that.
What are your plans for the future? Where do you see yourself in 5 or 10 years?
Well, this has always been a huge goal of mine. I mean, I want to secure that special agent position, and getting the top secret clearance was huge. That just came through recently, and the whole investigation process, like I even mentioned, it was just an absolute just nightmare. it was incredibly hard, and it took incredibly long, and you're just never knowing when it's going to be finished and when it's going to be done, and you're constantly thinking like, I cannot be doing all this, and then they say no, and then like all of a sudden, okay, gotta go, and like you're back out into the black trying to figure out something to do. But the top secret clearance, came through, and thank the Lord that was all good. So, I want to secure that specialized position for me and myself. And in 5 years, I would love to go back out and be back in the international community. Like, going to Israel for 3 years total, obviously I was footing the bill with student loans and all that kind of stuff. And so I was like, I had like this goal where it's just like, when I go back to Israel, I want to go back to Israel and I want someone to pay me to do it. So, that's, I would love to find myself in that position where, with a special agent position, you can spend a lot of your time overseas and in embassies and being like basically the security personnel for the embassy, so that's what I would love to see. I'd love to see myself doing that, and then, coming back to the States and working, on the domestic issues too. So 5 years from now, I hope that's what I'm doing.
So thank you so much. Have a great day.
Okay, you too. Yeah.
Thanks, Val.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Rihla Podcast. We have more episodes coming out soon, so stay tuned. For more information on the MA in Middle Eastern Studies program and how to apply, visit mames-israel.org. That's mames-israel.org.